Okay, this video is now going to be about um, EM. I'm going to make a new one, and this one is going to be about sculpt versus equal installment. Okay, and now what we're going to do is switch the sculpting switch really to really. Why did I say really? We're going to skip. Can I get a word out today? We're going to skip it from false to true. Okay, now we have all of our stuff here. Okay, now instead of this, I said instead of this just being sculpt or maximum gear, this is going to be really DSCR. In fact, they really all should be DSCR, shouldn't they? So, uh, excuse me. Okay. Okay. Isn't this copy and paste? Just doesn't it give you the willies just looking at it? So, okay, and to think that that's just because it's horrible that it's somehow fancy programming is just so disgusting. Okay, it's, I mean, I suppose it's easy, the SCR. Okay, and this one we we should put this was where we started everything with just a regular old one. Okay. Um, okay. So now you notice I'm reluctant to get started with this because what we're going to do is instead of doing a classic kind of goal seek, so uh, I guess if we go down this repayment now, instead of being here, well, let's put a true. So let's put somewhere up here. Why don't we put um, and debt size from equal installment. Now you might think, well, that's just so easy. All we have to do is put the debt tenor, which is down here, and then we just have to say, well, if it's the, I suppose we can put the debt amount too, and then we just say, well, let's just take this divided by this, and of course I have to do them both. And well, that's the very first thing I ever did, I think, back in the 1983 or 1984, when most of you were not born. And the people who are looking at this and trying to do some self-study, I really do respect you, by the way, even though I hope you come to my classes. I really do. Because you self-study, you can get a lot. But structuring, going from the beginning to the end, there's just something very different. And having a fun time going through Excel and just having a wonderful time just sitting around with Excel. How could you imagine anything better? Not now when what we do over here is put, of course I put it in the wrong place. I promise if I have my class I'll do this better. So this is you know, why don't I use the old-fashioned if statement? If it's true, then we take the repayment we get from the equals installments, okay? Now, so far so good. It wasn't really very hard, but yeah, that's good. Here's, we've got a problem. Our minimum DSCR is below, so we have the same kind of thing that what we would have to do is do the normal kind of process would be to say, well, let's size the debt from the, and I might have to do this. This is all okay, but this target debt service coverage ratio comes from okay. This comes from computed one. I had to leave the stupid um, here. It came from here. Okay, but that's just so the DSCR target. We have to put some kind of if statement and have it not come from this one, but come from another one. Okay, and so what we're going to do here is, okay, we can put debt DSCR result. Now the DSCR result is, I hope, is the minimum. Okay. Now, and then we can put DSCR target, which we have above here, and let's be very careful not to do something silly and take one that's already been messed with some kind of optimization. Okay, and we can put difference. Now, what you could do then is put debt with DSCR constraint. Now, we'd set this difference to 0 by changing, we ultimately want to change this one. And we want to do this goal seek, and we want to set the constraint. If the constraint doesn't apply, then we will go use the maximum debt to capital target here. So this one, well, let's just wait for a minute. This one, I suppose we can take our final one, but we're going to have to do some intermediate calculations. So debt with DSCR constraint will be setting this to 0 by changing the this repayment. So let's just, instead of having this, oh no, here's what it will do. Okay. Why don't we just make this equal to this? For now it's 0. Okay. So now we have a difference. Just a minute. Well, no, I'm gonna, let's say we put this as 800. Okay. So there's our 800. And then what we would have to do is do some kind of if statement. So this DSCR target, if this sculpting is true, then we'll take this. Otherwise, we'll take this one. Now, I suppose this wasn't all that transparent, because I really want to see how this is computed. We should, maybe put up here. If true, maybe then we'll put that it's sculpted. Otherwise we'll put equal installment. I don't know how to kind of remember that we do this. Okay. So now what we can do is, so now we're applying this equal installment with a grace period, and we just have this. And what we could do is make a little goal seek, set this to 0 by changing this. So let's go and just do that. Do a what if analysis, a goal seek. We set this to 0 by changing this one. Okay. We can even then press Shift Control C. Haven't done that for a while, so that's input. So right now we have less with the DSCR constraint. Okay. And we have this one. Okay. Now, if let's just not. Okay, so that now I'm just doing this without showing you what I'm doing, but we have a bigger one, and I think the basically things work. So what we would all we can do is put a goal seek against there. Okay. Now, but instead, then we have the same sorts of problems. We can't do all of our uh, optimizations down here. We can't do any of that stuff. The whole thing's going to be a mess. By the way, this goal seek, I didn't put range names, so that we'll have to change. I'm trying to remind myself, which I'm sure I won't. So now what? So why don't we go through this? Now you can switch off the video right now. You can make your own goal seek there, and the whole thing will work. But since I'm afraid of this class, I showed you this class where I'm going to have to go through all these advanced project finance issues, including what's the alternative repayments and when does sculpting matter and when it doesn't matter. And in some cases, it's real nuanced. Sometimes it does matter, and sometimes it does matter. I think life is interesting when it's nuanced, not when there's just some silly optimization program that just answers everything. Okay, so we're going to do a function to make the goal seek. So this, instead of a blue number, will just come straight out of it, and the function will say, let's start with a debt of 0, and then we'll just make a loop and just start increasing the debt. We'll just start increasing the debt in at first a reasonable increment and then smaller and smaller increments until the target DSCR, actual DSCR equals the target DSCR. So we're going to have to, in this process, do the same kind of thing where we uh, um, put in the taxes, put in the grace period, put in all the crap. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna start. I'm leaving the video on. I'm kind of afraid to leave the video on, but I'm going to start with this one we just did over here. Okay, hopefully let's see if for once something won't be really painful, but I doubt it. I'm sure it will. So I'm gonna start with this debt sculpting thing. Just copy this whole thing. Okay, this function. Oh, there's our goal seek that we should put some range names in. Okay. And, you know, and this one we're going to put debt. Whew. Let's put debt installment. Let's just call this equal installment. Okay. Now, um, I, you know, we don't, whew, we don't need the interest rate index. Okay, I probably should leave that in. But the good news is let's let's leave this beginning and start period in. And remember now that this time I'm gonna uh, just outline it. Let's just out it. So we want to go around and oh, we we have debt calculation equals start value to end value step increment. Now we have to define our first increment. So let's start value equals 0 and value equals, I don't know, 1000, and increment how about we'll put end value minus start value divided by 20. Now, and then we're going to put next try. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to go and we're going to start with this rough increment, and then we're going to make the increments much, much smaller. Okay, and the big test is going to be somewhere. So when we begin this, the DSCR is going to be really high. And as soon as if DSCR is less than target DSCR, then basically what we're going to do is adjust the increment. So, okay, and then eventually we go to next try. Okay, and before we go to the next try, we put our start value. Okay, and when this time the start value will be we went from start value to end value, so it'll be debt calc minus end value, and the end, oops, it's just debt calculation minus increment, excuse me. We have to be careful. The debt calc is going up all the time. So the end value is just det calc. Okay, and then we go to the next try. Now, then the other thing we can do before we do this, we can also say, well, if the DSCR, how about absolute value, DSCR minus target DSCR is less than some 0.001, then we're going to exit the function basically with value, and then what we did is this time we don't need any variant stuff. Well, let's leave that here. Okay. Oops. Oh shit. What am I doing? Okay, well, let's redo that. If DSCR absolute value, DSCR minus target DSCR is less than 0.01, then we're going to finalize. Okay, and to finalize the function, let's first let's put output on equal det calculation, and then we put, suppose, well, let's just go to final. So what we'll do is somewhere after we're all finished with this, we'll final it. Okay, and then we can put, instead of what we did down here where we did this stuff, but we it doesn't really matter, but this time it's instead of dead sculpt, it's equal installment. Okay. So that's the general kind of thing we do. Now if it's not, so if, and then we better have some kind of end if. Otherwise, you know, if you haven't met it, you have to make a new increment, and then you're going around and trying it again. Now the thing is, we have to now basically calculate the DSCR. Okay, now we did some of that here. Okay. Okay, we can say the opening balance here. Why don't we do the same thing? So I'll start moving things around. Okay. Now, and after we put that in, then we do have to do the same thing. We have to kind of go around. Okay. And I think we can do some of this whole thing here. Let's see how much we can copy and get away with. So let's move all of this. Okay. So the problem with doing these goal seeks like this, making them all automatic, it's another kind of thing that when it works, you're very happy, but to get there is very frustrating. Okay. So we go around from the start to the end period. Our opening balance is our debt calculation. And then we can compute all of this stuff like we had before. Now, this time we don't need our interest rate income. Okay. And if target equals, then instead of this, the repayment is equal to if we're in the repayment, and then we put our debt calc divided by the tenor. Now, what that means is we need to read in the tenor as well as the other stuff. And now, I think we won't need the debt issued because this we're not doing the optimization here. We will need the interest rate. We'll use the repayment period because we might have a get this out, you fuck. We might have a grace period. Okay, we need the depreciation because the DSCR is computed after taxes, so we need very much of the same kind of things. So then the repayment is this, and we can get this. Okay, now then we don't need this interest rate index, and I don't really know if we even need this. And then we subtract the repayment, but the key thing we have to do is compute the somewhere we have to compute the DSCR equal, and then I suppose why don't we do it like this? Let's compute an index for the DSCR equal the CFADS. Now, we certainly don't want to turn it off for the divided by the debt service. So definitely we don't need this. Else what we'll do is just we don't really even need to have an array on this one. I'll leave it in here for a minute. Okay. And otherwise the debt service is just, if it's not the grace period, I think I can compute the interest because the debt balance should go down to 0. Okay, so and first up, and we've got to be careful. We have to make sure that we don't. This is going from the start period to the end period, so where did we compute the repayment? The repayment. Well, I think it's going to be okay. I'm hoping this. So let's not forget to put the dimension DSCR as 1000. Okay. And then what we do is compute minimum DSCR equals worksheet function. Okay, and we put DSCR. Okay, that's pretty easy. That's pretty nice that you can just put arrays in. That's why it's sometimes good to do this. Now, the once you have this, the debt calculation is equal to, so in the minimum DSCR, I don't think we're going to be able to do that. I just wasted your time because we're going to, for each DSCR, let's just compute the DSCR without this. Okay. So this is wasting a little of your time, but I'm leaving it on. If DSCR is less than min DSCR, then min DSCR equal DSCR. So, and then what we can do is figure out the debt calc. Okay, new min debt calc now equals what we have is our debt service and I'm just going to show you how kind of to do this outside of the function, and then you put and if, and then eventually instead of this, all this stuff we put so we went out this and we compute the debt calc. Just a minute. I just have to stop it for a minute. Okay, so now this is the equal installment function, and what I did in the meantime was simply documented the function and simplified it. So we don't need any of the first thing. We don't need any of the dimensions. Take out the crap. The second thing is this stuff just all this stuff does is goes and it goes and looks across a row so you can get the start period and the end period. And then instead of putting a random end value in, I just added all the EBITDA so we get this. So, and I put the start value as 1, and then the increment is the end minus the start. And then here I defined a value, defined a counter to avoid infinite loops. Okay, and then every time we hit a new try, well, then we'll increment it, and if we hit more than 100 tries, let's just stop. Okay, maybe we'll go back. And then you need a minimum DSCR that's really high, and this is the big thing. The debt calculation goes from the start value to the end value, and it increments. And we just define the opening start value as the beginning value. And then we go through the whole period by period to find the minimum DSCR. That's this whole thing. So the interest is on the opening balance, EBIT, EBITDA minus depreciation, EBT, minus taxes, taxes, EBIT times tax rate, blah, blah, blah. Cash flow is EBITDA minus taxes. Then we can say, well, if we have a grace period, we better be careful. And if the tenor is, if you're inside the repayment period, then just take the repayment as a flat amount times the debt count divided by the tenor. And then we can say, well, the debt service is the interest that we computed above plus the repayment. Then if it's not the grace period, we just have interest. And then we take the opening balance minus the repayment to dwindle it down, hopefully, to nothing. And then the debt service, as long as it's greater than 0, compute the DSCR. When the DSCR is less than the minimum, remember we're starting with like 1,000, then redo the minimum DSCR. And then you're finished with the whole loop. Now after you're finished with the whole loop, test to see if the minimum is less than the input. And if that's a really small number, then you're finished, the difference. And you just go to the end, and at the end you just say, well, that's our next thing. What I should do here is, if instead of just ending the function, we should go to final. Okay, so we can just skip around the whole thing. Okay, now then if we hit a high enough debt so the DSCR goes below the input, then let's make a new start. So let's say, okay, we'll go to the last debt we had and this debt, and we'll make the increment as the difference, and then we'll kind of go around, make the increment 20 times less. I suppose this could be some kind of variable, and then we start the process over. When we start the process over, now we have a different start value because we go up here, increment it. We have a different start value and end value in a much smaller increment. And then we go until we find this again, and then it goes down much faster, and then eventually it'll be so small that we'll get out of it. So that's how you make an automated goal seek. And to do this, I think let's go up here. Okay. Where is our debt size? Excuse me. This is really embarrassing. Well, partly it's because I'm in the wrong sheet. Okay. So we're going to do a debt with function. Now what we'll do eventually then is just put this one equal to this one. So let's put equal did we put equal? So we put equal installment, and then you press Shift F3, and then we'll have to go down because we have too many variables. But this is the advantage, hopefully, of doing that whole stuff at the top, is that you can just then really quickly go and get all your inputs. Hopefully this target DSCR is okay. And what you could do is really be a little more careful than I was just now and specify whether it's an array function or not. And the repayment period is up here, and the EBITDA, excuse me, there's the EBITDA. We can get it from here, we get it from anywhere. And remember, we're not finished here. Now the tax rate is just here, and the depreciation is next to the taxes. And finally, we needed the tenor so we could compute the repayments. And actually, if we've got a grace period, it should be the tenor minus the grace period, shouldn't it? And I think I did it wrong. here, and it says, okay, well, we have a 4 without a next. And, oh, we have to put next debt calc here. Good. I made that mistake on purpose. And then, just so I could show you how to do this, then you just press the F5 key. And the bad news is it didn't work. The good news is it didn't give us a value. Okay? And of course, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the video off and try to fix it so you don't have to watch this incredibly boring stuff. Okay, and so we're at 40 minutes already. Okay, you know, I had to make a couple of changes. The last couple of things drove me completely crazy. I'm just admitting this, but it does work now. Why do I have a DSCR so low? You know, you can, whoops. Oh, where are we? So now you can change the DSCR. Run, whoops, oh, see, I went too low. Okay. And the whole thing works. I'll put the function on the goal seek and I put it in red here and yellow. I can't even get the color right, so I'm stopping this video. That's what I'm doing. I might check some other things, and when we receive the file, it might be a little bit different.